Is Alistair Begg becoming the new Andy Stanley? The Reformed community is in an uproar after a clip of Pastor Alistair Begg was posted where he recommends a grandmother attend her grandson's transgender wedding. Now, Alan Parr and other high profile Christian YouTubers have made reaction videos saying how they disagree with Alistair Begg's affirming position. Has this highly respected Reformed pastor fallen victim to the ideas of this ideology?
I don't know what to do about this, and I'm calling to ask you to tell me what to do, which is a huge responsibility. And in a conversation like that just a few days ago, and people may not like this answer, but I asked the grandmother, "Does your grandson understand your belief in Jesus?" Yes. "Does your grandson understand that your belief in Jesus makes it such that you can't countenance in any affirming way the choices that he has made in life?" Yes. I said, "Well, then, okay, as long as he knows that, then I suggest that you do go to the ceremony,
Mm.
and I suggest that you buy them a gift."
So, first thing to point out, and you hear Alistair Begg say here in the when he gives his grandmother this counsel, does your grandson know that you are your position with Jesus? Does he understand why you can't support his decision? The grandmother answers yes to both of those questions. I think that's important. It's not like going into this, he's telling her, "Hey, no, this is okay. This is in accordance to the scriptures." No, no, no. The first two questions very clearly let us know what his position is. For all those people who are saying he's going to the affirming side, well, that's the problem. That's not what he says. And so, obviously, I mentioned Alan Parr, but I want to make sure I also add this as well. Shortly after he made the video, he issued a statement on his community tab saying, "Hey, what I'm saying in the video isn't to say that Alistair Begg has now shifted over to the affirming side on this particular topic." He clears that up. Well, kudos to him for being willing to do so. What I take issue with is people are acting like Alistair Begg is the new Eddie Stanley, and that just isn't the case. Now, to be fair, there are issues with his position, and we're not going to sit here and pretend that there isn't. But to say that he's now on the affirming side is true. That's not the same thing. He's giving particular advice, particular counsel on a specific issue. It's not a general statement endorsing this kind of behavior. So we should be fair when we present this. I found this video by Gavin Ortland from Truth Unites, and I think this has been by far one of the better responses. So let me go ahead and pull this up.
I disagree. I would give different counsel than he gives. To be brief, to explain, I would say based upon what a wedding is and what attendance at a wedding has traditionally been understood to convey, I think a Christian should abstain from attending an LGBTQ wedding, but eagerly seek to express care and love for the person in other ways. If I have a neighbor who is marrying their gay partner, I would like to build a friendship with them. I would like to have them over in our home for a meal. I'd like to,
based on what a wedding is and what attendance at a wedding has traditionally meant, those are reasons why a Christian should not attend an LGBT wedding. Fair. Now, I will say this. When he mentions that attending a wedding has been seen as support and participation, I personally haven't attended a ton of weddings. And this isn't to say because my personal experience is different that this is necessarily true, but I do think personal experience is good to point to, especially when we're looking at examples. So I haven't been to a ton of weddings, but the ones I have attended, this hasn't been the case. Like I couldn't tell you that I've been to a ton of weddings where we've been asked to support or participate in the sense that Gavin offers here. That hasn't been the case for me personally. But I do agree that if you're being asked to, in a sense, endorse this particular union, this particular marriage, then yeah, it would be wise not to attend. I wholeheartedly agree there. I'm just not sure how many weddings still actually incorporate this. If you attended a wedding and you've seen this happen, let me know in the comments.
brief video here. The main issue, what am I concerned about? This tendency that I see to reduce a person to our disagreement with them, even on a secondary or tertiary matter. Here we have a situation where a man has been faithful for decades.
And I agree with his stance here, right? It's secondary or tertiary matter. If he does if Alistair Begg does in fact hold to an affirming position, which, based on the clip and what we've seen so far, does not seem to be the case. Well, let me sure I repeat that, because this has kind of been taken off in ways that it shouldn't. If he does hold to this position, then it's not a secondary or tertiary issue, right? Now it gets elevated. It's a primary issue. It's a point of division. We've seen this with particular denominations, most latest, the Methodists, right? They're splitting because they have a different stance when it comes to same-sex unions. Now, if it's just about whether or not to attend a same-sex wedding, as it appears to be the case in the clip, then we should be a bit more charitable, right? It does fall in line with that secondary or tertiary issue, as Gavin points out.
Ministry, including on the issue of marriage. He's in an interview context, he's giving advice on a very specific question of Christian prudence, namely, in a grandmother to grandchild relationship in which the grandmother's conviction is clearly known. He gives the advice that he gave. And I the thing is, I love Alistair Begg. I know his heart. I know who the man is. I actually don't know him personally, and I'm not tied with him in any official way, but I'm just saying I trust where he's coming from, what he's trying to do. So you can disagree with someone without discounting their entire ministry or writing them off. But these reactions are so over the top in some cases. So many criticisms, though not all, but so many make this one comment a litmus test for his entire...
I think Gavin does a great job pointing out how this is one specific case that Alistair Begg is giving counsel on. He's not making a broad general statement. There's no pattern of him doing this as we've seen with other leaders in the past. We've seen other leaders where you see it, right? They started at one point and you see the slow progression. That has not been the case with Alistair Begg. So we should be fair. He has a proven track record of being biblically sound and a faithful teacher. He's been faithful to the scriptures over the years. We've seen this. He's even provided a revised and updated version of Charles Spurgeon morning and evening devotional. If anything, especially in the Reformed community, that should at the very least grant some more charity, right? The dude provided a more updated English version of Charles Spurgeon's devotional. The Prince of Preachers. Let's be a little more charitable.
Status. So there's significant organizations that cut ties with him. He's withdrawing from conferences. There's this swarm of critical reactions, some of which have this aroma of like sharks smelling blood in the water. It feels like people are eager to attack. I'm like, what is that? That's not healthy. It feels...
All right. So we all know the conference he's talking about here, right? John MacArthur's Shepherds Conference. They've removed Alistair Begg as one of the speakers for this year's event. And to be fair, they have a right to do that, right? It's their conference. If they don't think he should be there, then hey, whatever. That's what you want to do. But let's also keep in mind that the church John MacArthur pastors was recently called out for covering up abuse by one of their leaders. It seems a bit like a double standard. What's that verse about partiality in James? I'm just saying.
Figure out how to reverse this trend. All of us lose in scenarios in which the pastoral office becomes more and more distrusted. We all benefit from creating an environment in which our pastors and leaders can flourish. The answer certainly is not to disallow public critique, but I think every time we give a public critique, it's good to ask, is this from the Holy Spirit? What is the culture that I'm contributing to? Overall, what's the net effect of this? And if you're like me and you want to see renewal in our times, revival in our times, we want to create an environment that feels like Galatians 1:6, where it talks about a spirit of gentleness. And it talks about watching yourself lest you be tempted. And I think that little end clause means we need to know that spiritual correction has its own unique temptations. And, oh man, do we fall into sin when we...
All right. So in the video, as Gavin continues, he shares Galatians 6:1, which talks about having that spirit of gentleness. Now, for me personally, this automatically brings to mind 1 Peter 3:15, right? Talks about giving an answer with gentleness and respect. Before that, talks about sanctifying the Lord in our hearts. Critique is necessary, and we ought to do it. This isn't to say, hey, we should. Anybody that says something that's sounds a little off or perhaps unbiblical, we should give them a pass. That's not the point. We should offer critique where necessary. Critique can be helpful, and critique can help build up. But what's our posture behind it? Are we looking, as I mentioned, right? Are we looking to build up or are we looking to tear down? Those are two very different things. First Peter 3 talks about sanctifying the Lord in our hearts and providing an answer with gentleness and respect. In this context, it is specifically talking about how we ought to respond to an unbelieving world, right? This particular context in First Peter 3. Should we extend this gentleness to unbelievers, but not those in the family? Because the way some are acting, that seems to be that seems to be the dichotomy that they're presenting, and that's not a good way to look at it. In the video, I would encourage you check out Gavin's video. He did a great job kind of addressing this from a pastor's perspective, very pastoral, very just well sound, and just what I would say is a very biblical approach to this particular topic. Over and over in the gospel, we are told that our love for one another will let the world know that we are his followers. So yes, let's disagree. We can disagree. We will disagree. We should disagree. We should offer critique, but let's do so in love. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.